This conference will now be recorded.
Hi Shweta, how are you doing? Hello.
Hello? Yes, sir.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hi.
All good?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good, yeah. So let's wait for a few minutes. So you're able to do practice?
Yes, actually, sir, today I was unable to log in SAP.
Hmm.
First of all, I had training for 3 hours for
Okay,
success factor recruitment module.
okay.
And then I tried to log in, so it was not getting login. So I had shared the screenshot with Shanmukta, and then it got resolved. I did a
Okay,
little bit of configuration.
okay. So success factor you got trained in office or you did it your own?
Officially, but they didn't give like only it was mostly theory and storytelling. Like it was not
Okay.
practical. Yeah.
Okay, so
Because
which
they
all?
can't use the client access
Employee Central.
recruitment.
Okay.
Recruitment.
So the main thing is actually now onwards you should be able to execute the payroll and you just start modifying your schema, whatever the standard schema is there. You start
Hmm.
modifying and you just see the difference, what are the differences coming. Similarly, you create absences and you just then you again run the payroll. Before absences, what was the payroll results? And after creating
Hmm.
those absences, so how it is affecting your payroll. It should be an unpaid absence. Okay, so paid absences, it will not be any impact. Okay, if it is an unpaid absence, how the system is behaving, how the deduction is happening, so that things you can explore. Other than
Okay.
that, I will recommend whatever these slides I will, the next session I'll be sharing with you.
Yes.
So
Sir, regarding that uh, absences of UK payroll like SMP and those we have to configure or it's already configured like SAP
no,
standard.
in the training system, I think it is already there. Okay, but
Oh,
some of the configuration actually you should also try. Means because some of the configuration is so that
hmm.
you'll be getting clarified what are the configurations you're doing. Okay, so you'll be getting an overall idea. Okay, so systems many people have tried in this training system, so it is not better to use those. Okay, you create of your own. Okay, and you try your like. Sandeep has created his own absence type in paid absence, unpaid absence. You can refer his configuration, but you can try of your own so that you will be getting confidence
Okay.
after this. So
Yes.
another three session we are planning factoring. This is a day 15. Factoring, cumulation, and retroactive, and 3 to 4 session. And after that, I'll be completing those 12 different scenarios. Okay, that may take another 2 to 3 sessions. So then we'll be completing this entire training. Then whatever the doubts you can anytime you can ping me WhatsApp. I will be more than happy to solve those. So let me check with him whether he's joining or not. Otherwise, we will continue and we will say at the recording. So I'll start with the basics one. So let's whenever he joins, we'll be having a quick recap. No, it is not a very difficult topic. Okay. So can you see the
Okay.
screen, right? The factoring.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the just concept I will start with. So why factoring is required in SAP uh, payroll. Okay, so the concept of factoring is nothing but there can be different regions. Okay, so what are the different in the factoring? These are the topics I will be covering: key factoring concept, then the parameters. What are the different parameters of PWS? What are the values on reduction in the pay and payment method? Hi Amit, I just pinged you. Hello. Hi Amit.
Hello.
Hey, hi. We just have started. We're just about to I have just pinged you. So you just started the concept of factoring. I was just explaining. So these are the today's agenda. Like we will be covering the key factoring concept, and also we will be seeing different what are the how to see the partial period factors and how it is affecting your payroll. So all this concept will be I'll be explaining. Then I will through an concept as well as so what are the different schema inside the schema, how to see those factor like slash 801 slash 802. There are 16 period partial period factors. I'll be explaining those, and also I'll be showing in those things in the system and how it behaves. So that is today's agenda. So I actually, from a concept point of view, I have divided the entire into three parts. So first, I will start with the how to set up what is the basic concept of payroll factoring. So it can be reduction in pay, as you know. So reduction in the pay, I'll be giving one example. Suppose a person is joining on say today's 22nd, right? Suppose a person joined 22nd of August for a particular organization, okay, and say his basic pay is 2000 GBP. But for the month of August, whenever he will be getting paid, he will not be getting paid for the entire month. Because why? Because he has joined on 22nd of August. Okay, so he has served only for the 9 days for that for the month of August. Okay, so there will be obviously there will be reduction in the pay. So this in the so how SAP is treats that. So whenever SAP we are running the payroll, okay, so from the date of joining, that is also maintained in your info type 7. Okay, so that period whatever work schedule is there, okay, so it will consider the entire month, and from where the employee has joined. So he has joined on 22nd of August. Okay, accordingly the factor will be automatically system in the same schema we have those provision. Okay, so system will calculate those factor and automatically it will multiply to the total monthly salary. Okay, suppose the person has joined on 15th of or 16th of August. Okay, and in that case, whatever the 50% salary, okay, or whatever the factor it is calculated. Okay, so that factor will be multiplied to his basic salary, and he will be paid that. Okay, and that period also depends a lot of factor. Okay, and most of the organization they go with the working days. Okay, the concept of working days, like suppose we are calculating 22 days in a particular month considering Saturday Sunday as a week off. So 22 working days. So if the person has worked on 22nd of August to 31st of August, so how the number of working days will be around say 5 to 7. Okay, so in that case accordingly that partial period factor which will be calculated in the system, and it will be multiplied by your whatever the basic salary the person is deserving. So that is the concept of factoring when it comes to the scenario and the reduction in the pay when in case of the joining. Okay, similarly whenever the person is leaving the company in the middle of the month, okay, accordingly also that his salary will be recalculated according to the date. Okay, so during that particular payroll period. And similarly we have unpaid absence, paid absence. So all of these cases, if there is any reduction in pay, so that payroll factoring will be work out. And also in case of inactive work relationship, because suppose if you are in a sabbatical leave or some any long term leave for a particular period, say 6 months, 8 months, okay, so during that period you are not work for that organization but still you are part of as an employee. So in that case also there will be reduction in pay. So in all these scenarios of reduction in pay, factoring will be coming into picture. Similarly, there can be another scenario like a calculation of a pay for exact periods. So what is the scenario? In this case, suppose if you are continuing in the same organization, but after post appraisal there is a change in your basic pay. Generally, basic these kind of changes happens in the month beginning. Okay, first of any particular month. If that is not the case, due to some reason, your change in basic pay happened in the middle of the month, or it can happen the second scenario like a change in organizational assignment. Okay, suppose you got a transfer or any promotion or any changes it is happening in your organization, so in the middle of the month. Okay, so in that case, when I say middle of the month, it actually exactly means the middle of the payroll period. Suppose it is a monthly payroll period, and that changes is happening in the middle of that payroll period. In that case also, your payroll the factoring will be coming into picture. Okay, so we have a function called WPBP that you must have seen whenever you are running any payroll. Okay, so that gets affected, and that is actually divided. It goes into different split. Okay, so it's split into multiple. Suppose there is a transfer in the middle of the month. Okay, so before transfer there will be a different calculation. After transfer, if there is any basic pay change or some kind of changes. Okay, so those kind of changes it will be also reflected in one of the payroll function, that is WPBP, that I will be showcase you. So whenever we will be running the payroll. So similarly, if there is any case of change in PWS, that is your personal work schedule. Suppose let's say you are working in a shift. Okay, and due to some change in shift, okay, there can be a shift allowances. Okay, so even if there is no shift allowances, there is any case of change in the your personal work schedule, there will be a payroll split. Even if it will not be affecting your payroll, but inside the schema, if you observe closely, then you can see those kind of split. Okay, inside the schema, whenever you are processing the payroll, inside the log you can see those kind of changes. So there can be another scenario like calculation of cost accounting waste types for an exact period. So there can be other scenarios there do some waste type changes or during the costing, okay, related to the finance posting. Okay, so in this scenario also the payroll factoring will be coming into picture. So we have different all these 8 scenarios whenever we'll be having uh, whenever we are having this kind of changes in any of this employee life cycle or the payroll cycle. Okay, so then factoring will be coming into picture. So this is just an overall idea how factoring works and how what is the concept of factoring. Any questions? I'll take a pause here. Any question you have?
Just explain the last point again. Calculation of cost accounting waste time for exact period. What does it mean?
Yes. So this is actually I'll be covering the part 3 section. So I was expecting that question. So I've actually kept a part in part 3 I'll be covering today. So there is a calculation. So there is altogether different schema. Okay. So that I'll be explaining. Okay. So just have a person. Other than that, if you have any question, I will be happy to help you. So this one actually I'll be covering in the part 3. Whenever I'll be discussing, there is a rule XCH0. Okay. So in that rule, I'll be explaining what is the concept of identifying cost accounting. Okay. So what happens if actually just I can, as you have asked, be going directly into that topic. So whenever identifying the cost accounting elements, what happens? So suppose if you are on a leave, any kind of leave, say sickness or public holidays. Okay, so all these have a processing class 31. Okay, in the system we have a processing class 31 which says allocate monthly lump sum to CO, I mean your cost object, right? So what happens? So in a particular month, okay, so entire monthly lump sum, whatever you are going to pay, that particular those specific waste types, say whatever the basic pay or whatever the HRA you are getting, those components. Okay, here I have given an example of M020, that is the monthly salary, the entire monthly salary waste type. Okay, so that entire lump sum will be calculated. It will be computed in your cost object. That is a lump sum to the cost object. That is about the processing class. Okay. So whenever you are specifying and calculate paid public holidays. Okay. suppose it is a clear example of for this month if I say for India. Okay, so you are having a public holiday which is a paid public holiday, that is our Independence Day. Similarly, UK also will be having their any kind of public holidays for a particular month. Okay, so in that it will be mentioned that processing class 31 and that specification that calculates the paid public holidays. Okay, so in this kind of structure, if you see, so there can be multiple scenario as well. Okay, so when it is this scenario is specific to the processing class 31. Okay, so if you see this processing class 31, we will be having this kind of four kinds of specification. Okay, so this processing class 31 will be having four kind of specification. First one is the zero. When it is better, I'll be showing in the system so that you will be able to better visualize. Let me open the system and I will showcase. I think the validity date is expired or what? You people are able to log in?
I didn't try today.
Can you try? Yes, actually I'm not able to log in just now.
No, this will be the same as to me. I think it's a validity period.
Okay, then we have to ask Sanmukha that this is record expired. Then how can
Ask him to
I?
extend that at least for a month.
We have seen he has to extend that. Yeah. Otherwise, how can you explain? Okay. Okay, no problem. I'm just explaining to you. So whenever we'll be getting access, we'll be going through all these things. So what happens in processing class 31, as you know, it will be having a different specification. Okay. So how this specification will work? So whether it will be calculating paid public holidays or not, it will be calculate total paid non-work. Okay. Otherwise, it will calculate those depending upon your client requirement. Okay. Generally, we choose this second one, that is a one specification, which will calculate all your paid public holidays. Okay, and also if there is no cost center related to things. Okay, so this waste type you can select this specification, that is a specification 0. Okay, which will not be any cost center debit and credit, it will not happen. Okay, so this is actually from an payroll posting point of view. Whenever we are doing a posting, okay, so how this processing class it will ultimately behave, that actually here we have explained for this cost accounting elements. Okay, so there is a PCR personal calculation rule, that is XCM0. For UK it should be GCM0. Okay, for then which is accessed by there is a sub schema which is XAL9. Okay, so this will be actually distribute the remuneration element, whatever the your element you are having for that particular period. Okay, so accordingly this waste type cost accounting it will be splitted. Okay, but from an consultant point of view, this is just for an understanding. But these things, only things you will be getting whenever you run the payroll, and if there is a deviation, okay, so then only you can come to and see, check this PCR, whatever the PCR or schema, whatever it is there. You can come here and you can do the analysis. So this is from an analysis point of view. But ideally, I have not seen people configure this very specific to anything. Okay, but whatever the processing class you are using, that you can visualize by going through this inside the schema. If you are facing any kind of issues, so whenever you are doing the finance posting, and after that if any discrepancies happening or in the payroll due to some cost center change, is there any split is happening? Okay, so this is how you can go to this schema and you can identify. But from a factoring point of view, so factoring it will be happening depending upon the specification. So whatever the specification you have done, like here we have maintained like calculate the paid public holidays. Okay, so in that case that particular paid holiday will be, it will be a paid one. Okay, so that will be mentioned in that if you see go entire log details, that you can visualize inside the log. Similarly, the next one will be, so I have given multiple other examples. So what will happen if in case we are not having the same specification? Okay, so as I was telling, so there will be a different secondary waste types, right? So whenever you are doing any kind of factoring, okay, so what will happen? So here I have given in one example here. So there will be 16 different types of period factor that will be generated by SAP. Okay. So what will happen? So starting from /801 /802 /803. So there's up to /816. Okay. So these are the different secondary waste types. During your factoring calculation, this will be auto generated by the system. Okay. So what will happen? So there are some specification inside uh, those secondary waste type. Okay. So /806 to /809 6789, those are actually not defined by SAP. Okay. So those things you can, those are reserved for your own PPF, that is a partial period factors. Okay. If the client is having some typical calculation of their own, how this factoring will be calculated, but from my experience I have not seen any those kind of scenario. Mostly SAP, whatever the say factoring calculation they have given, it 90% of the organization meets their criteria. Okay, so whatever SAP has given /801 to /805, whatever given. Okay, so I'll be explaining how these are calculated /801 to /802. All this calculation I'll be explaining. But /806 to 809, those are actually for custom. Okay, so you can use your own if you are creating own partial period factor, that you can use. Okay, similarly /810 to /816, those are actually used in the system. So system will take care of this to calculate the monthly lump sum. Okay, as I was telling. Okay, so on depending upon different criteria, so all these things will be calculated. So whenever we'll be running a payroll, okay, so we'll be seeing this how this factoring and how this calculation will be happening. But actually it is a little bit mathematical. So there are different various formulas. Okay, so for those formulas have I'll be sharing one guide today. Okay, so specific to the factoring. Okay, how this calculation will happen. There are some different fields in time module. Okay, so it can be calendar days, it can be number of working days. Okay, okay, so depending upon those number of days, all this calculation will be happening. So from a payroll point of view, you just understand the concept how this factoring will be working and how the split will happen. Okay, so if you go to into the deep, then you have to understand these are the different calculation will be happening. So as I was giving the example of M020 waste type, which we discussed just now. So suppose if the M020 waste type we are using for monthly salary, so in that case, as the processing class remains the constant, we are discussing the processing class about the 31 only. Okay, that is our focus area. Whenever I'm going to explain this cost accounting elements. Okay, if the processing class 31 equal to 0. Okay, so when I say 0, it is actually the specification here. Okay, so specification, suppose I'm maintaining 0 it here. Okay, so then what will happen? So in that case, there will be no amounts, there will be no such calculation. There will be no factoring. Okay. So the meaning of 0 is here, as I was explaining here, this 4 specification, right? So when I say PC is equal to processing class 31 equal to 0, so the waste type will not be having any kind of split. Okay. So in that case, the cost center debit credit, there will no such kind of things. Okay. Suppose if you are having the processing class 31 equal to 1, if the specification is 1, as I was explained in this screenshot, in that case, what will happen? So if the processing class equal to 1, 31 equal to 1. So in that case, so this amount, whatever the amount you have given, okay, in this M020, suppose as I was explaining, say the monthly wage is say around say 1000 GBP, that will be multiplied by the percentage in wage type /814 and placed in /844. Okay, so what is this /844? So that I have explained in this below section. Okay, so /844 is paid public holidays. So as I was explaining, 15th of regarding 15th of August. Similarly, UK also will be having their own public holidays. Okay, so that's /844, that paid public holidays. Okay, that factoring it will be happening in that case. Okay, so what it will happen? So for the amount whatever M020 we have mentioned, say 1000 GBP, it will be multiplied by the percentage in waste type /814. Okay, so this again is the /814. It will be given by the SAP. Okay, so 814 to 84, these things you don't have to worry about it. Only thing is whatever this 844 is there, okay, so that amount will be, it will be considered as a particular one. So even if you have not filled in the work time sheet for that particular day, say 15th of August, okay, so even if that you will be paid for that particular day, so system will consider that on that day, system will be taken care of it, like you are, as if you are present, okay, as it is a paid holiday, paid public holiday. Okay. Similarly, the same case is applicable for total paid non-work or total unpaid absences. Okay, so the multiplication will be happening by the respective wage type. Okay, the secondary wage type you have to just see here, slash whatever the wage type, slash 814 in case of processing class 31 equal to 1. If it is slash 815, it is a processing class 31 equal to 2. So what you can do for testing in the system, you just whatever you are using the model waste type, okay, go to the processing class 31, you make one first, then you see how these are generated, because all these waste types will be generated, right? Slash 814 818 slash 844, you go to the payroll log and you see the what is the amount is coming, okay, and after doing that, again you come back to the configuration and you change the processing class to 2. Okay, then again you run the payroll, then again you see these calculations, how this slash 815 and slash 845, and how this m0, what is the amount of m020. Okay, so it is better if you make the amount 1000 or 100, so that it can see the impact immediately, how what is the difference and what are the changes. Okay, so that you just once we are having SAP access, you just test this one, okay, and let me know this processing class, whatever the wage type you are using for basic pay or anything model wage type you are using, you must have copied that wage type from a model wage type. You go to the that 512 w underscore d table, okay, then you go to the processing class 31 and you just try to change all this, manipulate all this figure. Okay, so that is the best way to learn this, how this factoring. Okay, so other than the concept, understanding the concept, okay, so you just change those processing class 0, then 31 to 0, then you make it to 1, then you see the, just take the screenshot of the payroll log on those specific values, okay, slash 844 or slash 814, okay, what is the value is coming. Similarly, again you change the processing class 31 to 2, okay, then you repeat the same thing, and similarly for 3. Okay, so you do all the changes and you just then automatically you will be able to understand, other than I explain here, just I have explained the concept here, okay, how this calculation will happen and how it is going to the impact your salary and cost accounting elements. So this is actually cost accounting elements point of view. This is how this factoring it will be working. This is a little bit tricky, but it is better if you, once you get the access, once again that access is activated, then you run and you just let me know if you're facing any challenges here. Okay, so other than that, so how this schema cost accounting is happening inside the schema, that is actually explained in this particular schema. If you see, okay, so if I say xch equal to 0, so this is a standard one. Okay, so I have not done any changes. So how this waste type it will be, there are some specific table, you should not be worried about it, like tsdb, tsdbp. Okay, so those are actually some specific table. So whatever the tables are, I'll be giving the entire list to you. Okay, so just you have to remember like how these calculations are happening inside the system. Okay, so if you go to the inside for all these things, total, first it will calculate the total working time. Okay, so first it will check this schema first line, it will check total working time in a partial period. Then it will check the flat rate working time. Okay, so flat rate working time is on actual how many hours you directly you have worked. Okay, even if your planned working time is say 9 hours, how much you really worked in that particular period, it will calculate. Then it will put that waste type, all these are daily calculation, and at the end of the month it will accumulate. Okay, so here we have explained the slash 840 844 and 845. Okay, so whatever you have seen here, okay, so slash 844 845 and 846, even if there is no value, even if it is a blank, still this schema it will calculate all those figure if any there is any changes. Okay, so in that case what it will do, slash 840, as I was explaining here, it will be calculating the difference between the working hours in the current month and the average value. So actual number of working hours, average value, the difference it will calculate when it will put into this the specific waste, right? In the particular input table. Then it will calculate the paid public holidays. Okay, so when I say TXAX, okay, double star. Okay, so this is actually the paid public holidays. This will calculate. Then again, it will do the calculation. That particular after doing that calculation, it will add that particular. Suppose if in any scenario in case of slash 844, when I say slash 844, it is about the paid public holidays. If you are having any paid public holidays for that particular month, then system will consider that. So otherwise, system will just read and leave it. Okay, suppose there is no public holidays. So say I'm talking about the month of July. Okay, so there is no public holiday, national holiday, those kind of thing. Still, system will check and system will just, if it is not there, then it will proceed to the next step. So similarly, if there is any paid absences, okay, then again system will check for that particular period if you are having any paid absences. So again system will check, and if any paid absences, then it will add that into the specific slash 845, that waste type it will check, and it will add to that total paid on non-working days. So similarly, it is for your any absence in the partial period, so it will add to your slash 846. So these are the different secondary waste types which are created in this particular XCH0. It is called as a supply cost accounting number. So why it is named in such a manner? Actually, it is related to the cost accounting. Whenever it is has a relation with your, whenever you are doing a payroll posting, finance posting, in that case also some of these things will be calculated. Okay, it will be reflected there also. So for that reason they have named this. So you can customize it also. So whenever if you wish to change kind of these things, okay, so if you can modify it. Okay, suppose your total working time, I'll be giving one scenario here. When I say total working time, okay, so when I say total working time, it may be 6 weeks per month, or it can be 5 weeks, 5 days per week. Okay, some of the organization they are having 5 days per week, and some of the organization they're having their 6 days per week. So accordingly, also depending upon those values, this calculation may vary. Okay, so there is a list of tables. Okay, so which that list I'll be giving. Okay, so from that list of tables, depending upon your requirement, you can change this. Okay, so depending upon this, which calculation you wish to pursue. Okay, so that calculation you can modify this table by copying this schema, and you can create your custom schema. Inside that schema, you can manipulate these whatever the depending upon your requirement, and you can again put this into the main schema. Okay. So these kind of changes also we can do. So this is one of those schema, but I have not changed so in my project. So mostly it is whatever SAP has given. Mostly people take care of a number of working days, those scenarios, and those are pretty much standard in SAP. In case any variation, you can also, there is a choice to, you can do these changes. So as I was explaining here, so XCCH0, so what this calculation rules it will do. So basically the number, there are some, all these will be calculating this 840, 844, 845. Okay, all these will be filled with the hour number of hours. Okay, so these things, and also as I was explaining, ADDWT. So whatever the add waste type, it will insert those specific waste type values. All this calculation will be happening. But again, I will suggest you go through this and you generate. Okay, so once you generate payroll, your process your payroll by modifying this processing class. Okay, so first you have to remember what is the original processing class. Then you run the payroll. They see the log, and after that you again do the changes and see the differences. What are the changes? If there is any changes, see those respective. Search for those respective waste types. Search for those respective piece rules. Okay, then you again come back and you see what are the differences. Then only you'll be able to understand how this factoring it will be calculated. Okay, so that is from an cost accounting point of view. So here actually I have explained. So whenever given a generic example here, you can use GT00 instead of XT00. Actually, it is applicable for all countries, not only specific to UK. Okay, so here I have a generic example of XT00, that is for time data processing. You can have your GT00, and then last session as I was explaining GE and PS. So this function will what it will do, it will generate your PWS, whatever the personal work schedule is there, it will generate that. And there is one other important function here, PARTT. Okay, so this function actually inside any time schema. Okay, so this function, it will calculate, do all the provide this partial period parameters. Okay, so factoring also is a concept. It is an overlapping subject between your time management and payroll. Okay, but still, as it is a pair more towards calculations related to the pay, people cover it under mostly this PRTT functions, mostly in the payroll part only. Okay, so even if the time management is there, once again, still you can refer, you can see this concept in payroll topic as well. So this is one of the important functions. So PARTT, okay, that is responsible for providing all the ppm, that is your partial period parameters it will provide. And there is another function called 2003, so that you can use for substitution. Okay, suppose if there is any deviation in your work schedule for a particular period, okay, suppose 5 days or 7 days, in between you are having one day some different schedule, in that case also, so it will this as you know 2003 waste type, sorry, input type 2003 is responsible for doing all kind of substitution. So suppose I'm working so for this particular week every day morning shift, okay, and due to some reason, say 19th to 23, I am total in the morning shift, okay, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Okay, but due to some reason or some exchange on the 23rd of August, I have to do a night shift. Okay? And my morning shift actually it's swapped between another of one of my colleague. Okay, so in that case, there is only one small deviation. Okay, that deviation we can maintain into the input type for 2003. That is again from a time management module. Okay, so you will be substituting one another in that particular day. You will be having a different shift. Okay, so how in that case this substitution it will affect your your calculation. Okay, so that you will be generated by this P2003 function. Okay, so you can also see that if there is any no payroll related changes, then our system will just process it and just leave it. Okay, like there will be no impact in the payroll. So that also we can see, and whenever you are running the payroll and you can identify that. Similarly, as I was explained, PAB, this is actually responsible for all kind of editing your absences data that we have explained. But from a cost, from a factoring point of view, this PARTT, this is one of the most and key functions when it comes to the concept of factoring. Okay, so PARTT, whenever you are running any kind of factoring, you're doing any kind of testing related to the factoring, this function you must go and see how it will be how it is working inside the payroll log or the time log, whatever you are doing. So this function you must go and see in how it is working. Okay, the input and output you can just refer how this is calculations are happening. So other than that, XAL9, this is again another schema inside which also factoring will be happening there. Okay, so this is related to there is another function called gen/8. Okay, so this is also is an important function when it comes to the factoring. Okay, so what it does, so it generates all the 16 varieties, all the 16 types of waste types in our input table. Okay, so it creates all your /801 to /816, uh, all these waste types, all the secondary waste types it will calculate, and how it will be calculated, that I'll be explaining in the, I'll be giving one example. So in that you'll be able to understand how this calculation is happening. So that again will be in the part 1.
Actually, we need to see some example in system. Otherwise, it will be very tricky to understand.
Yeah, it's very tricky, but actually what I can do, actually I'm not able to. So in the next session we can log in and system again. As I have told, you just run the payroll and if you change this scheme processing
Okay,
class type.
one question to you. Let's say I have a weekly employee and monthly employee and fortnightly employee, right?
Mhm,
Weekly, that I'm speaking about those collective agreement provision, right? Those like one is stand for salary, one stand
mhm,
for monthly, three for salary, and two for periodic wage. So how does SAP
mhm.
work? These whole schema. I mean, it is always the valuation will happen always on the hourly rate for all
I
kinds.
didn't get your last part of question. I think your voice is breaking. Can you please repeat that? What was the last
Yeah.
sentence?
For example, we have three categories, right? As per the employees are grouping for collective agreement provisions.
Mhm,
Periodic employee, salaried employee, right? An hourly
mhm,
wage and
mhm.
those sort of thing. So, what is
Okay.
the means for SAP to calculate this salary wages? Will it always be depend upon the hourly rate?
And not always. That also we define, right? At the waste type level also we define that. There are many ways of defining that. It is not always hourly rate.
So,
So your question is basically how the salaried persons are varies from those other collective agreement, or
no,
I
the
didn't get.
slash 001/002, right? Those sort of valuation.
Yes, yes.
So they will always contain the hourly rate, or it's like a day rate. I mean, what I am. My simple question is, I have an employee who is weekly,
Mm-hmm,
employee who is monthly, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So how the processing will differ? Is it the case like the monthly salaried employee, the salary will be depend upon the number of days and the waste type valuation will happen that per day basis? But for weekly, it will always be hourly rate. This is how it works.
No, no, it's not like that. So it will be depending upon a lot of factors. Okay, so how you have defined those valuations. Okay, and how you have configured those specific waste types and how the processing, you have defined those processing. Okay, it will be varying from case to case. So we do not have any standard or one rule for everything. Okay, so it will depend on a lot of factors. So I can't give you a generic statement saying that all those monthly payment, all the monthly salary paid, those will be daily based, or those who are already weekly paid, those are hourly based. Okay, so I can't give a generic standard statement here. It will vary, means how you have configured those waste types, how you have configured those processing classes. Okay, so and also if you have customized anything inside the schema for those calculations, it will vary from. But SAP, as you know, SAP payroll will be able to handle all those kind of scenarios. Okay, so we have a lot of flexibility in that case. Okay, but again it will vary from scenario to scenario. In So suppose if you wish to give some example, if you wish to give any example from whatever the employee we have used in our system, then I will be giving a more clarity on that. Okay, that we will see after this completing this. Okay, once we are having this access, I will be able to better explain. But I have noted this question from you. Okay, so I will get back to you if I'm getting some more justified answer. But at present, as I know, so there is no one straightforward answer.
So for ultimately there will be a reduction in pay, right? For example, suppose somebody is getting 1,000 rupees
Hmm.
and he
Hmm.
for days, and that folk
Hmm.
actually person worked only for 20 days. So there is a difference.
Hmm.
Some sort of reduction has to happen for 10 days. So how this
Yes.
calculate based on the hourly?
So so the whatever the reduction which will happen. So here I'll be explaining that. Okay, so that there are like a lot of tables here. I was coming to that point. Okay, so the factoring it will be always a value. Whatever the value, this PPP PPF partial period factor, this value always between 0 to 1. Okay, so it will be some point factor. Okay, so depending upon your number of means how many, it will be accumulating all these values. So if you see here, this is actually I've taken a screenshot, like the we have defined, this is from coming from your period work schedule. Okay, so this screenshot I have taken from there. Okay, so number, it is actually number of day type. It is all here, whatever gives the example I have given, it is all depending upon the number of days here. Okay, so even if there is a number of hours, we have not considered that. And we have in the time management also there are different types of DWS, daily work schedule classes. Okay, so here we have mentioned like 5 days. Okay, like when I say 5, say it is, suppose it is a 5 days working. Okay, so for weekly 5 days, you can see the daily work schedule. The employee is having 5 days working, and again 2 days off. Okay, so in that case, if you see in the day type also, if it is 0, it is a working or paid day. If it is a 1, wherever it is a 1, you can see it is a day. I mean, suppose if it is a day off or some kind of scenario, in those scenario, if it is special, some kind of unpaid day, in that case we'll be using this 2 or 3 day type. Suppose again it depends upon these factors, so how these day types are configured in your time management module. And here also in the public holiday classes, suppose if it is your public holiday, or if it is 1, if it is a 0, it is no public holiday. Okay, so those kind of things it will be taking from here. So this is from your entire PWS, it will read, system will read. But in this scenario we have captured the number of working days only. But number of hours I have not seen. Mostly if it is a number of working days, if it is a working means it is a full day. Suppose it's a 8 hours or 9 hours, depending upon your work schedule. Okay, so that number of working day system will consider. So there is one things you have to remember. I think I have also given this in one of my slides. So I will just come to that slide and I will tell you. Just a second. I will come back to go back again. So as I was explaining here, so all these only these input types will be affected. Suppose if you are doing any kind of changes to this, say input type 0, 1, 7, 8, 14, 15, and 2001. If you are doing the factoring, will be working on these specific info types only. If there is any split or any kind of changes in between, in the middle of the payroll period, some specific due to some reason, in that case the factoring function it will trigger. Okay, so then that after triggering that function, as I was explaining, this PAR double T, this function it will go to your PSP. PSP means your personal work schedule, whatever the personal work schedule, it will go to that particular thing and it will read those things. Then after that it will do the all kind of splitting. Other than that, you have your in the payroll constant table, there are so many constants maintained. So here you can see mostly, if you see, most of the constants related to the number of days for particular month, like KDIVP, total working days per a month. Similarly, suppose it's a flat rate working days particular month. So mostly we have in the whatever system we are given, it has been configured as a 22. Means for a particular month you will be considering 22 number of working days for a whenever you are running a payroll for UK. So this constant also it plays a major role whenever we are calculating all kind of factoring. Okay, so that constant again I'll be coming back. So suppose we are having a generated partial period factor is a 0.5. In that case, you will be paid half. Okay, suppose your monthly salary, your basic salary is 3000 GBP. Then in that particular month you will be getting paid 1500, your basic. So that is just a concept here. So again I was explaining as this triggering. Okay, what will happen in a particular day, if you are changing anything, system will not support that. Okay, so because what happens, as you know, you must be knowing, we can't have two different actions in a particular day. So that is a basic concept in SAP. Like in the morning you are in a particular location, in the evening you can't be in another location for a particular. So in that case the factoring it will be always on a day basis, not an hourly basis. Okay, so whatever the, because we do not have SAP do not support, or is a generic principle, a principle of thumb. So thumb rule, we do not support we are not expecting a particular person to be transferred in the same day, in a morning in one location, in the evening in another location. Those kind of scenario we do not support. Okay, so for that reason, whatever the factoring, your waste type factoring, it is going to happen, it is on a date basis, not an hourly basis. So actually, even if the hourly calculation it will happen inside the, but mostly it will be considered the date as a final, as a primary thing. So sort of from a particular so and so date, you have been transferred, or your paid has been revised, or your pay has been reduced due to absence, unpaid absence. Okay. So that is an overall concept. Even I have also explained in one of these things. Okay, here you can see the value will be always between 0 to 1, and this is mostly it will be your PWS based. Whatever the personal work schedule you are having, based on those data only, it will go. So other than that, here I have explained, like if you are having whatever the info type 7 you are maintaining, it will be work accordingly. In case of any substitution you have planned, then accordingly that substitution also come into picture whenever you are in case of a payroll split. Okay, so that is driven by the scheme subschema GT00. For international it will be XT00, but the function remains the same for every payroll. The same function, that is your GE and PS, which generates your PWS. That it's helpful for your generating this concept. But that I have noted it down. So here you can see how this partial period parameter it will be your splitted. Okay, so as you were asking, so there can be two types of partial period, and we can have three types of days or hours. Okay, how this calculation will happen, I will just explain here. So this kind of calculation will happen in this inside the system in the at the PWS level. So what does it mean? This KSOLL, ASOLL. So these are the different fields name or the constant name you can say. So like in the payroll constant table, these are maintained. Okay. So wherever you see there is a K, it is starting with a K. Those actually those are the calendar days. Okay. That means the difference between calendar days and work days, as you know, suppose we're considering month of August. Okay, so the month of August, you can see the whole period. Whole period means G. Okay, so when I say G, the whole period is 31 days. Okay, so 31 days the month of August, that is our calendar days. Okay, so but when I say ASOLL, this constant, A is for working days. Okay, out of 31 days, you have 22 days of working days. Okay, so even though calendar 22 days your working days. Okay, so in that case 22 days will be considered your working day. And S, again, whenever S is coming, again it is related to the hours. Green S, what I mean. So means for that particular month, so total your say working hours is 161.40. So how many number of hours actually you have worked? If it is a partial period, when in case of T, okay, suppose out of 15 you have worked on, so 15 days you have worked, and your total number of working hours is 78.80. Okay, so this is how the system will consider this information whenever you are processing the time evaluation, or after the time evaluation you are running the payroll. System will consider this kind of processing. So this figure you have to just remember, like K is for this understanding these constants, because these constants you will be getting all these constants in your payroll parameter table. Okay, so inside the table you have to see these are the easy to identify. So here for that reason we have color coded, like if it is a partial period it's a T, if it is a whole period it is for G. So here what I have done in the first table, if you see, we have split it into two types. Okay, 31 days. Out of 31 days, so initial 15 days we have done a calculation. In the second 16 days we have a different calculation. Okay, because for the second 16 days the number of working hours is different, and for initial 15 days there are some other changes. Okay, so accordingly your payroll on all those parameter, all those info types whatever we have seen, there will be split in the figure if your basic pay or whatever the payment you are getting. Okay, so accordingly it will be split. Okay, so here I have explained, like these are all your payroll constants. Okay, so KDIVP, ADIVP, all these are payroll constants. Similarly, in the downside, you can see these are different specific to public holidays and all. Okay, so these things you will be able to see whenever you will be running a cycle. Okay, so all these figures it will be generated inside your log. Okay, inside that we will be seeing in the next session once we are ready with this our extended system is extended. Okay, so otherwise I'll be sending the screenshot if I'm getting time in between. So these things you have to observe. Okay, so this is how this factoring it will happen. So what you can do, you can change the payroll or you change the basic pay in between of the month. Okay, say instead of paying from 1st of August, you start change the pay from some 6th of August or some kind of changes you do, and you run the payroll again. Then you will be able to see this kind of how this there will be variation. Okay, from that variation you will be able to identify the period, all this partial period parameter, whatever period parameter AAS, if there is any deviation. So that kind of things you will be able to identify. So thus today I'll be covering the concept part. So here I have explained what are these constants. So as I was explaining DPP, what is the meaning of that? So this one I have already explained, this PARTT. So this function it will be responsible for determining all the partial period factors. So it will respond this inside the schema. It will be XT00 schema or subschema. For UK payroll it is GT00. So inside that, this function it will be responsible for generating all those partial period factor. Okay. So if you're going for any certification or any kind of interview, mostly they will be asking these questions when it comes to the question from your period factor. So similarly, these are the tables. So these tables you don't have to remember. Only thing is, I will suggest you remember the first letter. Okay, the first letter so that it is easy to identify. K means calendar days. It is easy to remember. And AS only you have to remember. Like A is for working days, S is for number of hours. The KAS. Okay. So whenever you are getting any kind of table for any, so what are these are the different constant or these are payroll constant or time constant you will be able to see. And the naming convention you just remember K is for always calendar days, and ASO double LL this is for working days, and if it's a double SO double L then it will be for planned work measured in working hours. So these deviations, this calculation you will be able to see whenever we are doing any see based on any we are running any payroll and you are going to identify these scenarios. Similarly, all these, so this was all about your planned working time for this specific as per PSP. Similarly, all these unpaid absences for how these unpaid absences are calculated. So it will be covered on your this another set of constants, say KAU, XS. So similarly, in the same fashion. Okay, the naming convention SAP has made it consistent so that you will be able to identify and you will be able to easily it is easy to remember. So all calendar days starting with K. Same is scenario for total working time. Suppose you are doing any kind of calculation for total working time. In that case, it will be also like ADVIB, ADIVI, SDIVI. So these kind of calculation you will be able to see. So I could have shown that today, but unfortunately we are not having that system. Okay. Otherwise, we'll be run the next, and I'll be able to show this thing. So this was regarding your payroll factoring and the calculation. Every calculation it will be having some formula. Okay, so whatever the inside the see in the inside any all this operation, this formula you don't have to remember, but you have to understand how these are calculations. So how it is calculated. So this factoring, I will just giving one example here. Okay, suppose there is a month, short month means I was giving an example of month like February. Okay, when it is a long month, I'll be giving an example of like say August, which is having 31 days. Okay, so how this operation it will be calculation will happen. It will be calculating like this. So average period working time means your total number of hours, say 167.7 number of working hours, and suppose your absence is more. Okay, suppose it's a 184. Okay, number of absences hour it's more. Okay, so in that case, that long month how it will be going to calculate it. So that factor will be calculated like this. So 167.7 minus 184 divided by your period working time, whatever average your calculation you are having. If it is a short month, suppose it's a month of February, in that case, automatically your number of absence hours it will be reduced. Okay, so in that case, how the factoring it will be calculation. So this is just a generic formula. So for an factoring, like for a particular factor. So how this is reflected, that we will be seeing in the another set of formula. Like if it is based on your period working schedule, okay. So in that case, it will be, there will be a different formula, okay. So like in the top, it will be having your projected planned working time minus your whatever absence, suppose it's 1 day absence or any such absences, divided by your total average period working time, say which is constant here. Okay. So even if what I have explained here, pay too high despite absences. Okay, suppose if it is a long month, then your calculation will be little bit different. If it is short month, even if your work means there is a reduction for 1 day of absence, there will be large number of reductions. Because why? So that will be depending upon your this how this period factor will be you are calculating. It is a bit tricky. Just we'll be seeing this example because it's I understand that you will be able to little bit going ahead. Okay, but this calculation we'll be seeing whenever we will be doing a running a cycle, and we'll be seeing those doing the variation, and I will need your help in that. So for doing all this changing the figure, changing those whatever the calculations, we'll be manipulating the period work schedule, then we'll be changing those respective figures. Okay, then we'll be running the payroll, then we'll be able to understand this concept. But today only I'll just covering from a theoretical aspect. So this is all. Other than that, as I was explaining, this is another important function like your gen/8. It is responsible for generating all your secondary waste types starting from /801 to /816. So how this calculation happens, so that I have explained here. So if you see, so it is there is a payroll elements that you can see go through GBAL specific to UK payroll. It really actually does the valuation of you can see the valuation of this entire period, all your period partial period factor. So how these are calculated, you will be able to see by there is another formula like XPPP have, that is equal to XPP0 plus XPP1. Okay. So how this calculation will happen? So system will check if there is any without any inactive work relationship. So that XPPF this will be checked. If it is yes, then it will go for the checking for the remaining part. Okay. If it is unpaid absence, if there is any change in basic pay, whether it is a joining or it is a left case. Okay. So this these things it will calculate inside the XPP0. So PCR, then inside the period factor will be calculated in the XPP1 or GPP1 in case of UK payroll. Okay. So this is an overall scenario, the flow, the how this calculation will be set up in the inside the system, that you can see it here. But the actual calculation I'll be showing the formula, like how this XPPF it will calculate inside the system. From starting from /801 to /80816, how it will be calculated. So this is the formula of /801. Whenever it explains the partial period factor /801, so this will be how inside XPP1 how it is calculated. So the basic formula here you can see it is basically called a PWS, that is period work schedule method. Okay, so whatever the planned working time you are having, that will be in the numerator minus unpaid absences. So whatever the unpaid absences, it's the 8 hours or 16 hours number of hours. Okay, so it will calculate divided by projected period of working time according to the PWS. Suppose for a particular month we have considered 8 hours per day, then accordingly whatever the your projected working time for that particular month. Okay, so system will calculate, and accordingly this /801 will be calculated. Okay, so what you can do once you are having the system, you just run the payroll and you see, try to search this particular /801. Okay, then you see what is the value you are getting. Then you go to info type 7 and your info type 2001. If there is any PWS plan, what is the PWS planned working time and what are those unpaid absences, you just check those number and you do a calculation of your own manually. Then you see whatever SAP has generated. Okay, so then only you will be able to understand and correlate what is the value and how system is going to calculate. If you are not able to understand, then you can see this is the formula. Okay, so this is the generic formula. Okay, this PWS planned working time minus unpaid absences divided by this projected period working time according to the PWS. Okay, but how to write this formula? This is a generic formula. Okay, how to write this formula inside the rules? So the SAP has already written this formula inside this, so you don't have to do anything. But if you wish to change any kind of changes, that you can do customize whatever the customize period partial period period factors I have told you. In those you have to change, but these are the standard one, you don't have to change it. Okay, so this is also another way to understand how these calculations, how to write a rule inside. It will explain you. Like here I have given a formula, so how to write this formula or how to translate this formula to a rule. Okay, so here you can see first we have defined like plan working in hours. Okay, then secondly we have so that is equal to RTE. So this is the value we have defined. Okay, so in the second step what we have done, whatever the planned working in hours, we have done the minus. So it is a kind of algorithm, you can say. Though in the first step whatever you have defined, so that again goes to next step, that is RTE minus unpaid absence. Unpaid absences means TSAU star double star. Okay, so now we have seen this total, the numerator part we have seen. Similarly, if it is multiplied by the factor, so this factor will be coming from your KGENAU, this constant. So K is for those calendar days, and it will be coming from that. After doing that, then you have to divide it by the total working time. So that is your denominator here, that is a projected period working time according to PWS. Once it is done, then it will add this wage type to this slash 801. Then it will be coming to your through the schema, it will be processed. Then it will be reflected in your salary, whatever the differences and all these things. So this is an overall concept how this slash 801. So I have explained one of the secondary wage types, which is generated due to this factoring process. Okay. Similarly, there are other 801 slash 802. I have given the example. Okay, how these are calculated. You just go through that. So it is more or less same, but only the process is different. The calculation formula is different. So here I have given an example of slash 802. Slash 802, what will happen? So it will, instead of that, it will do the calculation and depending upon your, it will unpaid absences as well as the paid absences. So it, or both of these, it will be subtracted from your planned working time. So whatever planned working time you are having for working days, so it will not consider your calendar days, rather it will focus on the working days. So in that case 22 days, in that calculation it will happen. Similarly, the projected work days also, in the denominator side, it will consider your number of working days for that particular month as the working days, not your total entire calendar days. Okay, so here this is how you can, if someone asks what is the difference between slash 801 and slash 802, then you can mention in a single word, like the slash 802 is all about the working days, but not slash 801, not. Okay, slash 801 is all about the calendar days, all it will consider. Also here you can see, you can use partial period factor to remunerate the numeration elements of an employee's pay, like if you are paying some travel allowance depending upon your payroll period. Okay, so scenario also it can be handled as 802. So from an understanding point of view, I will suggest, so I have given two examples. Okay, so similar, you can go through the remaining part, like those are more or less similar, only the formulas are different and accordingly your rule will be different. So this is also an opportunity for you to understand how to manipulate the rules. Okay, so you have a rules which is defined as an generic rule. Okay, it's like here a mathematical formula or this kind of things, and how to translate. So all this, if you understand this, how to translate to it and to a rule, you'll be getting in the next upcoming session. You'll be able to understand how to. I'll be giving those 12 examples. You'll be easily manipulate any existing custom, any standard rules or schema. Accordingly, you'll be able to manipulate. But from the timing, you understand how these calculations are done, and this formula you don't have to worry about. These are some standard formula, and all these secondary waste type has its own formula. And most important is you have to understand how these formulas are translated to these rules. Okay, and you just go through that. Similarly, we are having another PCR for XBAL. Okay, this is also, it will calculate your all the remuneration element due to the partial period factor. And here, actually, every period your period factor have its own specific it describes a specific processing class. So here, if you see XBAL rule, so processing class 10 is emphasized. Okay. So that is how all this works. So we'll be seeing in all these things in the next session. Like this is already I've explained. Processing class 31 I've already explained. But these examples, how you just once you're having system once again, we'll be seeing this running this cycle. One cycle we'll be seeing all this and how these values are calculated. In the meantime, so you go through this. This and also today I'll be sending one document which explains specific. It's around 15 to 20 page document. So that I'll be sharing specifically for factoring. Okay, because it's from an understanding point of view, it is most important. Because if you're working in a support project, I have seen this kind of issues comes mostly in the support project. There is a query from customer that how this is calculated, how. So in that case, you will be, if you are able to understand this, then you will be able to easily explain these things. But from an implementation point of view, I have not done any changes. So mostly from whatever the standard they have given, even for UK payroll also. So mostly the standard works. If there is any specific scenario, like you can also change that. But standard rules, whatever I have seen, those are more than enough. But but it is very important to understand all this factoring. So how these calculations happen. Okay, the entire process flow end to end, so that you'll be, if you're working in any support project or any queries your customer is having, you'll be easily explain them how these calculations happen, how the split happens. Okay, so you'll be having, whenever we'll be seeing this kind of as I was explaining, there can be multiple types of split. Okay, so those you can see if it is a work center indicator, say WPVP split. Okay, so those split also we can identify inside our log. So that we'll be seeing into details. Today I was about to show that, but unfortunately we don't have the system. Okay. Otherwise we'll be seeing this. So we'll continue with this today's part. And tomorrow, next session, tomorrow we'll be having this accumulation I'll be explaining. In the meantime, we'll be connecting with Aditya, so that we'll be getting our access. So any questions? I know it is a theoretical and it is not.
I think one more topic, average, is also good to do, right?
Yes, everything I have planned also. Yeah, so don't worry. Okay, so section number 16, we have and we have another 3 topics. Cumulation. Then after cumulation, I'll be covering cumulation in an easy one. Okay, since retroactive accounting also easy one, but retro I'll be explaining. We'll be doing a retro calculation. How these differences, retro it will not take more than 15-20 minutes to explain to you. How these differences are calculated and how it is carried forward. Okay, so that I'll be explaining the retro. Averaging, so most important is factoring was a little tricky, and averaging also a little bit tricky. So I will spend more time on this average calculation and how this number. So after completing averaging, I'll be giving those 12 scenarios. So as I was explaining to earlier, okay. So after that, we'll be spending more time on those. And in meanwhile, you start doing all this experiment. So you try with various changes in your waste type, start doing changes in the configuration as well, whatever the waste type you have created. Okay. So then we'll be seeing, if any doubts, you just post that in the group. Then I'll be happy to solve those. But it is interesting. Suppose those class 816, how 801 to 816, it took me at least 3-4 months to understand in the initial, whenever in 2011-12. So it is now I'm able to explain, but at that time it was a bit tricky, and there is a lot of queries from customers also, and I was not able to at that time catch up those things. Okay, so but I'll be able to explain now. So all of this very clearly. If any issue, then you just let me know if you're facing any doubts and all. But that is all from a factoring point of view. In a simple word, one sentence you can remember. It's a kind of deviation due to absences, or which will lead to there will be changes in your payroll. Whatever the pay that you are going to pay, that will be vary depending upon your absences. It can be due to some. These are the 4 to 8 different reasons. So that to summarize, that is the overall concept here. and we'll be going through all this calculation. If you're getting time, getting access, then you just try to experiment with this. Okay, but understanding this concept is more important than doing any changes. Okay, so that we'll be seeing. So in the next, we'll be having tomorrow as well, because Saturday I'll not be having, because it's a Janmashtami festival here. I'll not be there. So tomorrow we'll be having at again same time. We'll be requesting Aditya to extend it anyway. Let's see how it goes. Other than that, if you have any questions.
Not at the moment.
Okay, so just go through. I'll be sending those list of tables. Otherwise, unless and until we are having a system, it is not very easy to going. There's no point in going through.
Why we have 16 periods in that factoring? You were telling, right? The 16 periods.
16 period, actually it is by design. SAP has, why I can't answer, but the product team has thought of something. Okay, so it covers every, so initial, if you see, so whatever the 16 period parameter they have defined, in none of those materials they have also not explained why they have made 16, but actually it covers all the scenarios. So they have thought of logically. So if you see those 16, there is a document. Actually, I downloaded that. I don't think at present I have opened that, but I'll be sharing that document, and to next session we'll be discussing that. And they have reserved 4 for us, as I was explaining. If due to some reason client wants, no, they are very much adamant that they want some specific rules, specific the calculations they want in their own way. So for that reason they have reserved 4 or 5, as I was explaining, and remaining things are auto generated by system, so that you can't manipulate. So that is, where was the slide just I was going through? Let me check that slide. I think it was there in the part 3. Yeah, so basically slash 81 806 to 809, those are by, actually they left it for customer. Okay, so if you wish to do any changes, you can use those. And slash 810 to slash 816, those are generated by SAP. And the remaining are, those are actually not directly related to the period parameter. Those are generic standard your secondary waste types. Okay, but if I'm so this is also a good question you have asked, but I will check why it is 16, why not more. I will check if I'm finding any some satisfactory answer, then I will get back to you. 16 for 16 period factors. So that's all for today. If you have any question, tomorrow we'll be seeing, and we'll be try to get the system access once again. So that's all for today. Okay, chalo. Bye everyone.
Bye, sir.
Bye.